Let's start with Charlie. Charlie is a holster bag. She was designed by Tara Sinclair and we joined forces. Tara designed the bag and she is doing all the marketing and PR and came up with a wonderful idea. The only thing I did was make it into a wonderful pattern. So let's start with the rocket pocket. For the rocket pocket we have the 4 card pieces. The top, the 2 side pieces, our 5 stabilizers, the back piece, interfaced already, and 1 interfacing left. We are only going to fuse this after the card pockets are done. Start with the longer pieces H and fold them in half. I already did this for all of them. Then we are going to fuse the stabilizer strips right at the fold. It's important it's not on the fold, but just right in the fold. Do this for all 4 and fuse. The top card pocket piece, the stabilizer strip need to be fused 1/4 inch from the top. I measured this already, so this is 1/4 inch. They are now all fused. The side where the stabilizer is the front. I always start with the starter piece. Then my thread is more secure, and I'm less likely to unthread from the needle, because I don't think it's anybody's hobby to rethread a machine. That's also the reason why I changed stitch. And I end again with the starter piece. On 3 of these, I will draw a line with a fabric marker 3/8 of the inch. This will be the top of the next card pocket. Since the bottom card pocket does not have a follower, we do not need to draw the line there. If you accidentally did, no harm done, because it is a fabric marker. Here I draw a line 1 inch from the bottom. This will be a stitch line. On the bottom piece, I do the same. but on the inside. We're going to stitch on the inside, so we do not see the stitch line there. On this piece, we draw a line 5/8. Because 1/4 will be in the seam allowance, so then we are left with 3/8 inch, the same as here. I take one of the 3 pieces with the lines on. I place them here right on top of the fabric marker thing line. I clip or I pin. I'm going to stitch on this line. We take the second piece, place it on the line we drew, clip or pin, and stitch on this line. Third pocket, place it on the drawn line, clip or pin, and stitch. The last card pocket, place it on the line, clip or pin, lift the top layer up and sew on the line hidden inside the pocket. Now we need to grade this. Grading means not cutting everything like this, but gently. This on this line, another layer of fabric on another place. This way everything will not sink in, but it will be gradually. Now this stitch, the card pockets, it needs to be inside the seam allowance. The seam allowance is 1/4 of an inch, so we are going to baste at 1/8 of an inch. If you start here, you will not disturb the pockets. If you would start here, it's possible your machine would do this, and that's not what we want. So start here, for the other side, turn your pocket and start again at the bottom. This is just a basting stitch, remember. Place the two side wings right side together on top of the card pockets. And pin or clip. Here I clip because it's already a lot of layers of fabric. With clipping, it's a little less disturbing. Now sew with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Press open. This is how the front looks. This is the back. And this is the time when we're going to fuse the stabilizer. Pin the back piece, right sides together. And we are going to stitch, but leaving this open to turn. This will be our turning hole. How are we going to stitch? 1/4 here, then we make a 90-degree turn and we stitch till here. The top, down there, and then again just here for the turning hole. So we start here and we'll do this. We're now going to fold both layers of fabric towards the inside. Clip them. And now we're going to stitch from there to there. Why are we doing that? So our corner will be a lot nicer when we turn this pocket inside out. This is stitched. Here again we fold both layers of fabric towards the inside. We clip and we're going to stitch the top of the pocket. Fold both layers of fabric towards the inside, clip and stitch the last side. This is our last corner. Fold both layers, clip, and now we're going to stitch from here, turn 90 degrees and towards the end. For the end, for the start, I use a stitch length that is way smaller than my normal stitch length. My normal stitch length is 2.5. For here I use 1.5. And fold this towards the middle. This hole will be left open, but it will be a lot easier to make it nice, visually pleasing when we fold this already or pre-fold it. Now turn it inside out. Make sure all the corners are out. I use a chopstick for that. It's blunt, still pointy and dirty. Fold the bottom, the opening in the bottom, towards the inside of the pocket. This will be a slip pocket, and it will become a slip pocket when we place it on top of something else. So for temporary measures, we are just going to glue this. We are not yet top stitching it. As glue, I like Fabri-Tac. You can use whatever glue you like. You can do it without glue. You can do it with double-sided tape. You can hand stitch it close. It's completely up to you. So the only thing we need to do now is top stitch the top of the thing, because this will be a slip pocket. So here the sides and the bottom will get stitched, but the top will not get stitched. So we do that now. This is our final rocket pocket. We take the back zip pocket and we draw a line at 1.5 inches. This will be the top of the rocket pocket. We also find the half of this piece. And we do the same for the rocket pocket. Find the center. And place it nicely aligned with the center line and the top line. Pin in place. And top stitch around. Start here, turn 90 degrees, turn 90 degrees, stop here. Make a back stitch here and a back stitch there. If you want to go fancy, but not just for looks, you can put a rivet in this corner and in this corner. It will be nice, but it will also give more strength. Take your awl and make a hole. I use rivets that are 5 millimeters or number 5. They are very small. I bought them especially for this purpose. And of course, I bought them on AliExpress. They were dirt cheap and I bought them with 1,000 pieces. The more you buy, the less it costs in total, because 100 pieces were more expensive than 1,000 pieces. This will not get loose any time soon. So the back pocket is done. Set it aside for the moment. The other piece we need to cut off the top. This is the line on the pattern piece. Why do we do it like this? Then we have just one pattern piece with the same result. We have now two pieces, the top and the bottom piece. This is the top of the zipper because we can see clearly the zipper pull here. And place this on top of this side. This is the cut side, so this is the side we need to have on top. You can see that my zipper is way longer than it should be. Why is this? Because I buy my zippers in bulk. It's so much easier and so much cheaper. So I decided to buy this length because this is the length that is always good enough. You can shorten a zipper, it's absolutely no problem. For placing my zippers, I use glue. You can use whatever you want. You can baste stitch, you can clip, you can use double-sided tape. It's completely up to you. I use glue, so I demonstrate everything with glue. In the beginning I used double-sided tape as well, but if you're using a lot of it, it starts to be very expensive. We're now going to stitch this with a seam allowance of 1/4. And the top has been stitched. Fold over the stitch line. Turn your bottom side with a round towards the top, away from you. We are now going to place the zipper on top of the top that's now towards me, with the zipper facing upwards. This is the top of my pole. I can see it clearly, so this is the right side of my zipper. When doing this, make sure that your little top piece and your bottom piece, this big piece, are nicely aligned. Make sure the raw edge of the fabric is aligned with the raw edge of your zipper. From this side, I don't see fabric. From this side, I don't see zipper. That's what we should have. And stitch here. Iron this in place. Set aside for the moment. On the zipper facing, we are going to draw the zipper box. It will be on those lines that we are going to stitch. This piece is 1 inch and 3/8 of an inch. These are just help lines. When all the lines have been drawn, we will end up with the box we need. You can't see the lines very well here. So my zipper box is 3/8 of an inch high. In the middle, we draw the line where we are going to cut. And into diagonal lines. That's it. In the original video, the drawing of the lines was not very visible. That's why I retaped it. For the rest of the video, you will see me continue with the darker zipper facing. Take your outside piece with the fleece, cut out. Mark the center and 1/2 inch down. Place your zipper facing in the middle, in the center, pin, and stitch on the box line we just drew. On the lines of the box, not on the other lines. Start in the corner, lower your needle with the hand wheel. Then you're pretty sure, you're exactly sure you are right in the corner. Lower your stitch length and start sewing on the line. I'm sewing on the outer box, not on the help lines. When we are in a corner, lift your zipper foot, pivot 90 degrees, lower your zipper foot and stitch. Down. The zipper box has been sewn to our outer, and we now need to cut on the help lines. You can start with your seam ripper, or you can fold this piece in two and start in the middle with a small cut and your scissors. Cut on the lines we drew. And here exactly till you are in the corner, not through your stitches, just till you are in the corner. To make the turning easier, finger press here, finger press here. And I always use some double-sided tape to make it easier when I am turning the zipper to the other side, the zipper facing to the other side. This is double-sided tape I bought on eBay. The real purpose of this is to fix broken phones. It's very, very sticky. If you would sew through it, your needle will junk, so don't do that. So I only use it when I know that I do not need to stitch through this part. You can use normal double-sided tape, but that will cost a lot more. We now need to fold this to the other side. Why my zipper facing is always the same fabric or the same color as my exterior fabric is because even if you do a perfect job, there is always a little chance that you will see part of the zipper facing on the exterior side. If it is the same fabric or the same color, because perhaps you are making your bag out of leather or pleather or cork, then just use a fabric that is the same color. Then it will not be so noticeable. You will see it, but it will not be noticeable. You see, it's folding into each other, into itself again, by now being able to glue it down because of the double-sided tape. That's fixed. So you just fold it right on the seam. And this is done. Now you just need to press it. Take your front of the zipper pocket. You will have the back side of your fabric, but the front side of your zipper. Use a little glue or use double-sided tape. And place your front piece right on top. My zipper pull is still here, so open up the zipper. Make sure your zipper pull is on the inside. This looks perfect. We're now going to stitch around the zipper opening. The stitching around the zipper pocket will be very visible, so I advise to use a color that is close to the color of your fabric. Use your zipper foot and stitch as close to the side as possible. If you like a larger seam allowance, please do. This is just a suggestion. Move the zipper pull out of the way. When you are at the zipper pull, with the needle down, lift your zipper foot, pull the zipper pull up and continue the stitching. When you are at the corner, needle down, lift your zipper foot, pivot 90 degrees, lower your zipper foot and continue. The fabric has been stitched around the zipper box. You can see it here on the inside, and on the outside we just see this stitch line. Now we are going to place the back side, the one with the slip pockets and the card pockets, with the rocket pockets. So, place this one right sides together. And we're going to stitch around this pocket. It's very important that you do not stitch through the outside. So, fold it completely out of the way. Do it however you feel possible. If you need to trim, because one of the two pockets is now a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, just trim at the top. It is all depending on your zipper. Not all zippers are equal. Or even not every 1/4 of an inch is 1/4 of an inch. This is really not important. You have some wiggle room. On my machine I have a special stitch that is a straight stitch and a lock stitch at the same time. I always use that to stitch my pockets. So I'm going to use this now. If you don't have a stitch like that, a normal straight stitch is more than enough. Be very sure you are not stitching through the outer fabric. For the top, I suggest you sew from the top on. So you lay your pocket on the bottom, close your zipper completely, fold down the fabric, the top fabric, the outer fabric, the exterior fabric. I am now removing the double-sided tape from my zipper facing. It's not needed anymore. So now I can stitch close my zipper pocket. I'm stitching through the zipper facing and the two layers of the zipper pocket. This has been stitched. Trim the seam allowance. And trim your zipper. This is a bad scissor. These are not my good scissors. I use them for paper and for trimming zippers. This is my front. On this front we are also going to attach the cargo pocket. So press. You would think it's my favorite hobby, pressing, but it's so worth it to do it every time that I tell you to. Set this aside for the moment. When making the cargo pocket and the flap, it's important to not forget to place your magnetic snaps. If you do forget to place them, it's no disaster. You can always use cam snaps. For the cargo pocket bottom, place them at 3 3/4 inch. Fold your fabric in half to determine where the center is. This will be the place where we are going to attach the female side of the snap. I hope you got biology in class, that I do not need to explain why this is female and this is male. Female, male. So we determined where the center point is. Place the round disc on top with the center point in the center of this hole, and draw 2 lines and the 2 rectangles. Through these rectangles we're going to make a little slit. Using your seam ripper will help. It's very important that you don't push them too far. It's better to have the slits too small than too large. On this side I had already my fleece, so that's why I'm not going to attach anything else. I fold them outside, and now you have 2 options. Or you can sew, press a piece of fusible fleece on top of it. What I use is duct tape. It serves the same purpose. Mainly the fabric here will not tear down because of this. That's one. This is the lining of the flap. We find the center and 1 inch. Place the little disc with the mark we just made in the middle and draw 2 lines. It's possible that your magnets are different than mine. Always follow the directions of the one who is selling you the magnets. If they are the same, you can use the same. I forgot something here. This is a little scrap of fusible fleece. I can see where I need to place it. Place it here and fuse. My fusible fleece is very thin. A piece of craft fuse, Pellon 808 or Decoville Light will do the trick as well. So make again 2 slits. They need to be smaller than the prongs. If they are too small, you can make them larger. If they are too large, you cannot make them smaller. Attach the little disc. Fold the prongs outside or inside, whatever you choose. There are 2 kinds of people in the world. Ones who are strongly pro outside and others who are strongly pro inside. I do outside, you choose. That's done. Now we can continue with the cargo pocket and the flap. These are the cargo pockets. These are the flaps. We will use them later. For the cargo pockets, on both sides, we fold the top, the right side, over 1/4 of an inch. That way the top will be finished. We only have to top stitch. For the darts, we fold the fabric right sides together. Fold the edges of the darts onto each other and clip or pin. We're going to sew here 1/4 of an inch. Do exactly the same for the outside fabric. Backstitch at the start and the beginning. The darts have been stitched. On the inside, the wrong side of the fabric, we need to press the darts, the seam allowance of the darts, towards the center of the fabric piece. For the lining side, we do the opposite. We press the seam allowance towards the outside, towards the exterior of the fabric. Why do we do this? Because both pieces will be laid down on top of each other, and now on the exterior the fabric is facing inwards, and on the lining the fabric is facing outwards. So we reduce the bulk. Lining towards the outside, the exterior fabric towards the inside. Place both pieces right sides together and align the top. The top of those pieces is what will be the most visible. So those have to be the best alignment you can push out of your day. Now align the darts. Align the second dart. And ease the rest of the fabric if it is not matching exactly. Stitch the round edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Do not stitch the top. Back stitch at the top. And back stitch at the end. Trim your seam allowance so you have 1/8 of an inch left. And turn your pocket inside out. when pushing with your finger on the seam, you will make it easier to get both sides nicely on top of each other. If you have another way of accomplishing this task, please post it in my group, because I want to learn as well. This was the way I learned to do it. So the lining side needs to be exactly on top or slightly on the inside. On the outside, we do not want to see lining fabric. I used 2 colors for this pocket for the video. If I would do this in real life and I was using cotton, I would never use 2 fabrics that differ that much in color. I would use the same fabric, or if you're using pleather or cork, I would use a color that coordinates with the outside. That way there's less chance that the inside fabric, the lining fabric, will show on the outside. So this is only for the video's sake that I use the 2 colors. Or 2 colors that are that different. We now need to top stitch the top of this cargo pocket to make sure it will be nicely aligned. When I'm sewing, I use a little glue. Yes, I like my glue. No secret anymore, I think. I'm not using double-sided tape here because I will need to stitch there, and you know already the double-sided tape will junk up the needle of a domestic machine. For some reason, industrial machines don't suffer from junking. But all my patterns are made on a domestic machine. So, top stitch here and give it a good press. And the cargo pocket is done. For the flap, we do the same, just a little bit different. We do not need to fold over this because we will finish the seam. The outside, the lining with the magnet, place on top of each other, align all the raw sides, and stitch around with a seam allowance of 1/4 of an inch. Back stitch at the start and the beginning. possible you have a problem right on the side where the magnet is, because your zipper foot or your stitching foot will shift. Check, and if needed, sew again. I'm now repositioning my needle. That's the benefit of a domestic machine. We stitched around the round edges. We leave this place, this side open, because we need to turn the flap through that opening. Trim your seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. If you do not, you will have problems turning your flap. So use a seam allowance of 1/8 to trim to, or use a special scissors. Turn the flap. Use the same technique for the seams. To flatten the seams, take your finger and finger press. Give it a good press and then top stitch around the edges. Just base stitch this one closed. And my flap is finished. We now need to place the cargo pocket and the flap on top of the front side. The front side is the one with the zipper and the zipper pocket. We do not want to stitch through the zipper pocket, so fold over your zipper pocket and pin it out of the way. Take your pattern piece. On 1/2 of the pattern piece, we placed the markings to place your cargo pocket and your placement of your flap. So this is for the flap, and this is the top of your cargo pocket. Take your cargo pocket and align it nicely in the center of your piece. This is the center, and pin in place. make sure that you have the same distance from the outside of your piece towards the cargo pocket. That's the exact place to place it. Try to have no lining peeking. Again, if you use the same color, it will be a less problem. It will be less of a problem. Speaking not your mother tongue and doing this is apparently not that easy for me. My mother tongue is Dutch, by the way. English is only my third language. I speak Dutch, French and English. It's mandatory in Belgium. So, now sew around the cargo pocket with a seam allowance of 1/8. This will be very visible, so I will use the thread same color as this. That's the cargo pocket. Remove all the pins and place the flap. We need to place it like this, with the lining on top. Place the straight side of the flap right on top of your lining, of the line we drew, and pin in place. Stitch this line with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. What I always also do is use a little zigzag stitch here. This seam or the edge of this fabric will be hidden between two seams. Still, I always also use a zigzag stitch here. This is the magic stitch I have. It does a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch at the same time. We will close the flap like this. This is an extra chance to check if your magnets are aligned. Close the magnet. So this is okay. Now fold your flap as much towards the top as possible and pin in place. We're now going to top stitch the flap here. You will very hard see this stitch, so be very careful what thread color you use, what stitch you use, and that it is even. If you use a seam allowance of 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, whatever, up to you. You have to stitch at 3/8 at least, but you can have 2 stitches, absolutely no problem. Why do we do it like this? Then we are sure our flap is nicely like this, because there will always be little differences of where your magnets will be. The normal thing is to fold your flap right on the line we have sewn. But you can see here that my magnets are not good aligned. So this is the trick to cover that. Close your flap, fold the flap as much towards the outside, as much to the top as possible, pin in place, and then stitch. Here is our this is our raw edge. Make a line here and here, a mark, make a mark there, and then you know that you will have to stitch on that line. If you knew it had to be as much as this, you can always shorten your flap as well. This is the one stitch line here. You see that our raw edge is finished, is inside what we've sewn here. I will do a double stitch line here, just because I like that more. And our front is finished. The double stitch line, that's a feature. We know better, but our customers will not. Remove the pins, and this one is done. For the last part of the bag, we need the slip pocket. We place the woven interfacing on the back side. We leave 1/2 inch on both sides, on the top and on the bottom. Both sides, the top and the bottom, we fold over 1/4 of an inch. Do not glue, just fold over 1/4 of an inch and press. Fold your slip pocket in half and mark the center. A 1/4 inch down from the center, draw a straight line. 3/4 inch down of that line, draw another straight line. 1 inch from the side, in between those two lines, draw a line, and do the same on the other side. And this is the place for the opening of our slip pocket. It's the exact same technique as for a zipper box. 1/2 inch from there, 1/2 inch from there, draw a center line, draw these lines. So this, and the center line will be our cutting lines. This is the box, the lines we have to sew on. Take the back piece, the back outer piece, it's the last one. The one with the zipper is already done. So this one, and place the slip pocket on top. Close it again on the center line. Draw a line at 1¼ inch. Fold the slip pocket in half again. We still have this line, and place this right on top of the line we've drawn. You will see that the that the slip pocket is right here where the exterior is rounding. Open up and pin in place. Stitch around this box. Start in a corner. Lower your stitch length. Open up the slip pocket box, the zipper box, this box, on the cutting lines. This is one way, and this is the other way. I use both. Cut through all the layers of fabric. Here it's very important that you cut right into the corner until the last fiber of fabric. Do not cut into the stitch line. The more careful you are with this, the better your result will be. Now turn all the fabric inside the hole we just have cut. By using the same fabric for the slip pocket as for my exterior, I have the same result as with the zipper facing. Even if this turning would not be completely perfect, nobody will see it. I'm pinning here, I'm not using glue. I will explain later why. Do the same on the bottom. And on the sides. Give it a good press and then sew around the box with a seam allowance of 1/8 of an inch or less. Remove all the pins. And give it a good press. Again, I know. Fold down the pocket towards the bottom. Align the bottom seam. Sew the sides, do not sew the bottom, just the sides with a seam allowance of 1/4 of. The bottom will be used to turn the pocket. Since we do not want to stitch through the outer, move the outer away. You can pin it away, or you can be very careful at your machine. This will now be outside my seam allowance, and this is the front of my slip pocket. Give it a good press. Again, I know Our slip pocket is now done. That means that our last piece is done. This was the last piece we needed to do. To make the reinforcements for the grommets, it all depends on what fabric you use. If you used a leather or a pleather or a cork, you will not need to use the reinforcements. If you only used quilting cotton, you will need to use the reinforcement. Just take your grommet and look at the thickness of them. This is the thickness you will need. If your leather, your outside and your fleece is already this thick, you will not need them at all. Attach them with some glue. It all depends on what kind of fleece you used, because if you're only fusing them, they will loose, they will remove itself when you're turning the bag. By using glue, they are much stronger holds here. We have the both pieces. Place them right sides together on top of each other and pin all around. Since we are going to cut away the seam allowance, I'm going to staple stitch. Staple stitch is nothing more than using a stapler instead of pins. We are going to cut away the staples, so place them inside the seam allowance. Our seam allowance is 1/4 of an inch. We now need to stitch around 1/4 of an inch, all around. To strengthen this stitch, sew again all around. This is just to be extra secure, extra short. This has now been sewn all around twice. Especially the top is very important that you stitch it twice, because the slip pocket is very close towards the top, and it's possible that your zipper foot will not be even when you're stitching here. By stitching it twice, maybe moving your needle position, maybe switching foot, you are sure that this is secure. Now trim the seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch, especially here at the tips. All trimmed, all sewn, ready. We now only need to turn the bag. Turning is through the slip pocket. We left the hole open so we can turn it. It's a rather big hole, so turning will be rather easy. Push the flaps out. Be careful with the reinforcement pieces, because they have been only glued. Use your finger or another pointy piece. Or another pointy object, I meant. Push the lining of the zipper pocket inside and check if everything is okay. If everything looks good, if every seam looks okay, check double, because after the next step we will not be able to do anything anymore. Push the lining of the slip pocket out again and stitch closed. By hand or by machine, up to you. The slip pocket has been stitched closed. Push it inside your bag again. And it's ready. What's left is placing the grommets. I have these special tools to help me. on the pattern piece you have where they need to be more or less, but where you exactly place them, that's completely up to you. You have the male side and the female side. The male side is what goes inside, so the female side is the diameter that you need to cut away. How to place them? Follow the directions of your supplier. Take a heavy wooden box, or you use the curb step. Place a special tool. And hit with your hammer. Yes, you will damage your cutting board. And this time, take a rubber hammer. Take the male side on the front side of your bag and the female side on the back. And that's in. Déjà, those are attached.